Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mike Bazzoni, one of the regional trainers with Emergency Reporting. Welcome to your September 5th edition of Virtual Thursday. This is our 10th training session of the year. Today's topic is going to be on data imports. With us today, we got Brittney Bush, one of our implementation lead managers, I guess we call her, and myself. Also helping me out is Mark Wolf, one of our regional trainers, and Todd Lambert, another one of our regional trainers. Just as a reminder, all of our training opportunities we do offer, obviously you guys are doing the virtual Thursdays. These are free, typically held the first Thursday at 1100 hours Pacific time. My time is going to be obviously 1 o'clock Central. We do also offer some online training that can be purchased in 3-hour blocks. We can customize those to meet your needs, however you guys decide. So whether it's focused on a particular module or shift training, we can definitely meet those. Also offering some on-site training and then our regional training academies. Speaking of those, our next one coming up is going to be next week in New Orleans. It is sold out, so hopefully you got an opportunity to attend one of those. If not, we are currently working on our schedule for next year, so stay tuned for that. If you do want to check those out and how to access and or buy tickets to those, then you can visit that web address there. And just another kind of information to lead to, if you ever need any kind of training support or training assistance, you can go to our training page on our main login page, emergencyreporting.com, and get all the information about training and get us out there to help you out to whatever you need. So without further ado, I'm going to turn my screen over to Brittney. Brittney's going to take control, and I will be in the background answering any questions you have. Also, Mark or Todd Lambert will be in the back answering questions too. So Brittney, with that, I'm going to send you presenter.
Perfect, thank you.
And it's coming over now, so you should have it.
Awesome.
Share your screen and we're good to go.
Okay, can everyone see my screen?
I got it.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone. Sorry, I'll catch up here. So I'm Brittney with implementation. Basically what I do here at Emergency Reporting is I help all new customers and existing customers import their data. So that's kind of what we're going to be working on today. I will dive into each individual import that we have. I will answer any questions you guys have about each import. So the trainers on the line will kind of let me know if there's questions in the chat, so we can go ahead and answer those as we go. So as far as data import types, most of these come in as new customers. So if customers are migrating over from another software, they obviously want to keep their data with them. So we help usually new customers transfer that data over from their previous software or whatever internal system they're using and put as much as we can into emergency reporting. We do, for almost all of our imports, we do have templates. So we obviously can't import everything, but we try to do as best as we can. So as far as data imports goes, there's 2 different types that we deal with. We have customer-facing imports, which are imports that you guys can do on your own. You guys can actually see them located in the administration module. So you guys can do those on your own, but just know that we're here to help. So if you guys run into any issues, any errors that you guys aren't able to troubleshoot, don't hesitate to give us a call. Don't get frustrated. Just contact support, and then they'll get you over to us in implementation to kind of help you through those. The main reason we have these as customer facing, these top 4, is we have kind of, not necessarily an undo button, but if something goes wrong in the import, we do have a bulk delete option, so we can kind of start over. So that kind of brings me to the non-customer facing imports that are just an internal tool. Those primarily is because we do not have a bulk delete function as of yet. So what we do is we really try to help you guys import the data in a clean way to make sure nothing goes sideways and that you guys get the good data in that you guys want. So these are the kind of the 2 different data import types that we have. Do you guys have any questions on that?
No questions.
Yeah, just so you guys are aware, I will be answering questions in the background. If you guys have a question and it pertains to a certain thing, I might interrupt Brittney and we'll kind of talk about it more in depth. So feel free to ask whatever questions you got.
Perfect, thanks. So moving on. So as far as importing data, so we have end first data, which is all done through a text file, and then we have all of our other imports are all done through a CSV or Excel format. And when a customer wants to import their data, we provide them with Excel templates. So it basically lists out all the fields that we can import, and then you can copy and paste your data from whatever data you currently have into our templates. Our templates are very specific, so we cannot change any of the fields in the templates to be something different. If those are altered at all, then the import will not work. So we try to kind of stress that when we're sending out those templates that say, hey, you know, obviously we try to import as much data as we can for you guys, and if there's not a field that is listed in our template, then we try to find another solution, whether it be the notes field or something similar, just so we can try to capture the data you're looking for. Just some common general rules in here. Date format, when asked for a date, you're usually looking to provide this format here, the month, day, and year. And then the lats and longs tend to be a big question too, is what kind of format we're looking for. And we're looking for the decimal format, and I have an example listed here. So as far as if you guys are wanting to do your own imports, I have a screenshot listed to the right here, which shows what's available to you guys. So that's listed in the administration module. So you would need to have admin access to your account, and then you would click on whatever import you're looking to do. And if you're looking to import end first data, that would need to be a text file. Or if you're looking to import hydrants or equipment, then it would be your Excel file saved as a CSV format. Now with the import tools that we have, some are newer. So if you look at the screenshot up at the top of the screen, that's our Hydrant import, and that's kind of one of our older import tools. We are looking at doing an upgrade here very soon, but it just kind of shows you what happens when there's an error. When the file gets uploaded, you hit next, and then the import tool sees an issue. So listed here, it says warning, and it lets you know what line it's on, and it says, hey, it's missing this required field, and then you can read some more information. Another common thing that customers do see with the older tools like the Hydrants import is not a whole lot of description. It just says line 1 error. And we understand that obviously is not very user friendly. It's one of the reasons we're redoing Hydrants import to give you guys more information as to what you guys need to fix. So the line 1 error basically is just telling you, hey, there's something wrong with the file. Then you need to go back and look at maybe the data, the format's incorrect, or something of that nature that's incorrect. And that's really when you guys can reach out to us. If it's not clear on what the error is, feel free to reach out to us, and we're pretty well versed in doing these imports. So we've seen some pretty common errors, and we can usually look at the spreadsheet right away and say, hey, okay, it looks like it might be this issue, and we can help you guys out. And then listed on the right-hand side in the screenshot, this is the equipment import. This is the more common, newer import style that we're doing. So when there's an issue with a file in the new template, in the new format, it lets you know how many records are imported, and then if there's an error, it'll let you know how many records or how many lines in that CSV file is incorrect, and then it will generate an error file, so you can download that file and see exactly what's incorrect, and then it will import all of the good data for you. Did you guys have any questions on that at all? I ran through that kind of fast. Okay, moving on. So another big item that we do import for mainly new customers is end first data. So end first data can come from your previous software, it can come from the FEMA website. If you do get your data from your previous provider, that's something that you would need to do and then send it to us. We have had some experience with other vendors, so we do have a couple instruction sheets that we've gotten from customers. We're definitely not experts in Firehouse or fire programs or those other softwares, but we just have had experience in the past, so we can try to offer some advice as best as we can. But the best thing is to try to get your data, your in-first data from your previous software or provider, because that's going to give you the most information. Some common questions that we get as far as in-first data is, how much data can we import? How many years? We usually suggest going back to 2003 or going usually no more than 10 years, but it's completely up to you. As long as the format is the same, then we can import it into your account. We just want to make sure that it's good data going in. There are certain fields that we cannot import with that in-first data. Some big key ones are like en route times, and there's a couple others. So we really try to stick with all the in-first standard fields and import all of those, just so you guys can have those records in your account. And depending on how big those, how many calls you guys do throughout the year, kind of depends on how many year increments you guys can send us at a time. Because sometimes if you guys have a pretty big call volume, the file ends up being too big to email. So we usually recommend 2 to 3 year increments if possible. And then the file needs to be in a text format, which is just the normal and for standard. It's usually what's exported out of your previous software going to the state. And so then I just kind of listed here some instructions on how to import in-first data. It's pretty straightforward. It's one of our easier imports. It's basically just saving the file to your computer, clicking on in-first import, and if the file is valid and there's no errors, then that's when you can just click next, and then it will bring you to what is our mapping step. So if you have personnel in your account already that you guys have set up in your account and you're importing data with personnel attached in a call, what it will do is it will look for those users and map those. That way we're not creating duplicate personnel. So that's what that system mapping step is for. And then once it's done, then you get a success message and it lists out how many incidents were imported, including the users, the apparatus, and ranks. And then once again, if you guys do get errors, we're just really well versed in correcting those errors, so don't feel frustrated. If you guys get errors, just feel free to send them to implementation and we can help you guys out. So now I'm going to kind of dive deep into each non-in-first import. I'll dive into all of them, so customer facing and non-customer facing. I've attached screenshots here, so because a lot of these are non-customer facing, it's probably not something you've seen before. So this is basically the tool we use internally to import the data. And it's basically our guide to let us know, like, hey, this is required, we need to import it this way, and then the parameters on each field, whether it have a character limit or specific data type it's looking for. So as far as the apparatus import, that's a pretty straightforward one. The one thing that gets a little sticky, that's a required field, is the in-first apparatus type, and it's looking for a certain code to attach to your apparatus. So if you're looking to import your apparatus, what we'll do is we will send out an apparatus template with all of these fields here on the left-hand side, and we will make this one required. And then we also give you a list of what all those codes mean and what they're looking for to kind of help you guys out on listing what those are for each apparatus. So a lot of these, primary use is a big one. It's looking for, a number, and we list out basically what those numbers mean. So there's a lot of information in here. Obviously, they're not all required. It's whatever information you have that you're wanting to bring over. The only other required field is apparatus ID, and then currently we're looking at starting to require station. We've just heard from our CAD department that that's really helpful to have a station assigned for each apparatus. So the next one is personnel. This one's a pretty popular one. If they have quite a few personnel that they're wanting to have an ER, obviously it's going to be a lot easier to import those in a Excel spreadsheet rather than hand enter all of these. So I have listed here just kind of the required fields are pretty basic in this one, first and last name. And then there's also other information, date of birth, contact information. So there's quite a few fields in here. And then we just have some pointers, basically, like work phone number here is the one that will show up in the personnel grid. When you're looking at all your personnel, that's the phone number that will show up. So that's a big pointer that we give to customers just to let them know, if you're wanting a phone number to show up in the grid list, it's best to put the data there. Yeah, a lot of this is pretty straightforward. There's quite a few fields in here. Like I said, they're obviously not all required, so it's whatever information that's most important to you guys to bring over for your personnel. So the equipment import is one that is customer facing, so it has that newer format, so it looks obviously very different from the other imports. Equipment ID is required, and so is category. And all the date formats are listed here on what it's looking for. So it has a pretty good description of what data types it's looking for to really help you guys out as far as importing that. Okay, and then the hydrants import is another one that is customer facing. It's a pretty popular one as well. We did have a flow test import that was customer facing originally. We just had to remove that because we had some issues with it conflicting with the hydrant import. The hydrant import is one that we're currently working on redoing to look like the equipment import, just to be a little bit more user friendly, because we do get some customers that try to import their hydrant data and it comes back with an error and they're kind of unsure what it is, and it usually tends to be the in-service fields. It doesn't say it's required, yet a lot of times it gives us an error if there's not data in that field, or if it's the data given is not what it's looking for. So for example, when you put a value in for in-service, it's looking for a 1 or a 0. 1 being in service and 0 being out of service. So most customers, they would put in service, which makes sense. But the import tool is looking for a number rather than a text. Let's see what else. Yeah, so this one has quite a bit of information, sorry, in here. And then obviously a lot of customers, once they do the hydrant import, they'd like to do the flow test import. So if you guys would like to do the flow test import, since it used to be customer facing, if you guys would like to do the flow test import, as it sits now, you guys can send the data into support. It will go to implementation and we can import it for no charge. So if that's something you guys are looking to do to import into your hydrants, then we can definitely do that for you guys. So that brings us next to the flow test import. There's quite a few fields on here. Start time is looking for a date. It's not looking for an actual time. That's a required field. I've seen quite a bit where customers don't have anything filled out for that field. And that's usually when we'll reach out to the customer and ask if they have a date, and if not, then we'll just put in the current date. That way we can satisfy the requirement for the import. And then I just have some descriptions down here listed. If it's asking if it's passed or not passed, it's looking for a 1, which equals yes, a 0 equals no. And then I have some other directions as far as calculating the volume at desired pressure, just the items that are needed for that. just so we can make sure that when we import the data for the flow test, it's going to give you that information rather than just having blank fields filled out. Let's see. I believe that's all I have for the flow test import. So the master streets import is another one that's customer facing. It's going to be listed actually not in the import section of the admin module. It's listed on the right hand side of the admin module under drop downs. So if you guys would like to have a street list loaded into your account, basically that kind of autofills. So if you're typing in an address for an incident or hydrant or an occupancy, it'll basically give you like a pre-fill option. It will basically try to predict on the address of what you're looking for. That way, if you type in the street number and start typing in the street name, it will give you options and suggestions. And then once you click on the correct street name, it will autofill the city, state, and zip. So customers do find that helpful. If you do have CAD, the address information will autofill for incidents if that's what you're looking to use it for. So if you guys have CAD, then obviously you guys will not need to use this for the incidents module, but it may still be helpful for hydrants and occupancies. One thing that's that I commonly see if a customer sends me a master street file is a lot of times it doesn't have a city, state, and zip code. It will just be a list of streets, street names, types, prefixes. To satisfy the required fields, city, state, and zip is required for each street name. So if a street goes through multiple zip codes, you would need to have a separate line that includes that zip code. That way, when you put in that street name, it'll give you the two options for the zip code and you can choose that. So the next one is a pretty big one. It's pretty popular, Occupancy Import. So this is one that's not customer facing, but it's a pretty, like I said, pretty popular one that we do. We did just recently redo our import, so it has quite a few more fields than it did prior. It contains a lot more pre-fire plan information, which is really helpful, especially when you can pull a lot of that information out of your previous software. So we have all these fields listed, the biggest one being occupancy ID. That really is the unique identifier that really ties a lot of information to that occupancy. So if you guys have contacts that you guys are wanting to import for each occupancy, we use that ID as a unique identifier to tie those two items together. So that's a required field. We have category and subcategory. Now most new customers do have categories pre-filled in their account. So if you guys have categories and subcategories attached to the occupancies from your previous software, that does help, and that does help create new ones if they're not already in your account. And then I just wanted to point out too, we do have two separate sections for address information. We do have an address one field, which is basically a consolidated address. So it just has the full street address in one field, which I do see that come across quite a bit with data coming from another software where it'll be all in one field. So if that's the only way you can get the address information, that's fine. That's what that address one field is for. But the most recommended way to get your address information into the occupancy module is the segregated address, where it's broken up into fields of, street number, street name, street type. It just makes it a lot easier for our system to map that in our system. We have latitude and longitude, so if you can get that for each occupancy, that's even better. We have occupancy types. So there's quite a few fields in here. Like I said, these are all optional fields. If you guys can get these from your previous software or want to put that into our template, it will just save you a lot of time down the road. I think I missed one. So occupancy contacts import is just something that, you know, if you have contacts that you want to attach each occupancy, that way you know who to contact for each. We do have that import available. It is a non-customer facing import as well. So these are just kind of all the fields that we have. It's quite a bit more expanded than what we had before. It's one of the newer import tools. So we try to capture as much information as we can for the contacts as well. So that's all I had. On my last slide, I just had, you know, as far as importing data, like I said, a majority of the data imports we do are for new customers, but we do have, you know, customers that maybe start out with a clean slate or want to import their data at a later time, and that's completely fine too. So we do have our customer-facing ones that we can help out with. Like I said, you know, don't get frustrated if you guys are having issues with imports. You know, that's what we're here for. We're here to help you guys through it. And then if you guys want to import data that's in a tool that's non-customer facing, then you can still contact us. There is a charge for it just because it's something that we need to do on our end, and we usually just take a little bit more caution with it because we just want to make sure, since there's not a bulk delete function for those tools, we just want to usually do a test import just to make sure that all the data goes in correctly, you know, how you guys are wanting it to look in your account, and then we import the rest of your data into the account. So I ran through that pretty fast. Did you guys have any questions?
Looks like we had a couple questions we had to answer in the background. We'll leave the mic open for a while. Not mic, correction. We'll leave the meeting open for a while if you guys have any last minute questions. Point I do like to bring up always is, and I know Brittney touched on it, is the ID. You'll see a lot of the imports require a specialized ID. It's one of the required fields. A lot of agencies I found aren't used to that. So an ID can be anything from a numerical designation, or, you know, if you guys use barcodes or something like that. So that is also going to be important too, is you do have some information already in the system, and you go to, I'll say down the road, you want to not necessarily start with a clean slate, but overwrite or update some of the information. Those equipment IDs are going to have to match. So correct me if I'm wrong on that, Brittney, but that's kind of how I explain it typically.
Yes, exactly. That's a great point to point out, because yeah, I have seen that issue down the road where customers want to add to their occupancies or overwrite data, but if there's no IDs attached to those, then the system doesn't know what to look for.
Absolutely. So other than that, well, I guess we'll leave it for 5 minutes or so, and it looks like we got the last minute questions.
Hey, Michael, Mark, I'm going to break in just for a moment.
Absolutely.
And just remind everybody, there are 2 handouts available. If you check the handout section of your control panel, some information that Brittney provided. We've got a new brochure about the imports and another document. And also we had a question earlier directly about what is or is not included in NIFRs. We put a link in that chat too for the U.S. Fire Administration's NIFRS Complete Reference Guide from 2015, which is incidentally the most recent document. And you can take a look at that. It's 512 pages for your reading pleasure. And about any kind of question you have on your NIFRS data entry will be in that manual somewhere.
Thanks, Mark.
And yeah, last minute question from Dave. Yes, this will be recorded. This is recorded and should be available hopefully in a day or two for review if you would like.
Yeah, Dave, Mark, if I'm going to break in again, that'll be in the support page, knowledge base, in the webinars on demand section. And that will be probably put in there by the end of the workday for me today. And I'm in the Eastern time zone. So hopefully by 4 to 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, that will be available.
Brittney, I think that's a question for you. Joe is writing, as we have imported historical NIFRS data, the narrative data appears scrambled within ER. I think the narrative is coming from the historical records not being read well. Any thoughts on that or idea?
Yeah, so I have had a customer who had an issue with their narratives where the narrative was imported backwards, and I think it's only happened like maybe once or twice. So we do have a developer looking into that issue but it's definitely a good idea to look at the data that was imported. So I can definitely reach out to you and take a look at maybe the file that was imported and see maybe what happened and see if we can get that issue corrected.
Hey, Brittney, Mark, I'm going to put a couple 2 cents worth in here on that too. I've had experience with this a couple times. Is a data entry error in a NIFRS data file. The separator between the actual fields is the caret key, which is the upward pointing arrow on your number 6 key. And if somebody inadvertently puts that in a narrative, it will jump to the next field over from your narrative and scramble your data as well. So that's one thing you want to make sure in a narrative you don't use that upward pointing arrow, which is the caret symbol.
Yeah, and that's why it would be really helpful to look at the file that was imported so we can really identify if that's the issue, and if it's not, then obviously we would need to get our development involved and see what we can do.
All right, I think that's the last for questions, everyone. So if you're okay with it, I think we'll tie up any loose ends, and then we'll go ahead and end this edition of Virtual Thursday. As Mark mentioned, it is recorded, it will be available through the support in the knowledge base section, webinars on demand for reviewing. And as always, you can reach out to support or training if you have any further questions. Anything else, guys? Anything else?
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for your time.